I will be playing a game here against a 2100 rated player on leeches. This game is incredibly important as I am trying to get this account to 2200 rating. So I will be playing this game and I also will be explaining my thought process, so this video can help you also become a stronger chess player. So we are playing against the Queen's Gambit, and lately I have been trying out this opening, which is the Slav defense, d5 c6, and I really like this. I still have to study it a little bit more, but the good thing with this setup is that this is extremely solid for black. We basically just want to follow opening principles. We want to create a pawn triangle in the center, we want to develop pieces, and then we are just going to play a middle game. And I am surprised that Mighty Wizard right here already has to think for so long. This is just the second move, right? Or the third move. And I don't know why, but Mighty Wizard is like one of the slowest chess players I have ever played against, honestly. Like, we are at move 5, and he has been thinking for almost 2 minutes. I don't really know what's up with that. Okay, so e4 is a very interesting move, which I actually have no clue what to do against, but it's pretty obvious that they are trying to attack the pinned knight. We don't want that, so I will be playing pawn takes e4. Since I don't want to run into e5, because you have to be very careful whenever they pin one of your pieces. You don't want them to be able to attack it with a pawn, and you also don't really want them to be able to attack it with too many other pieces. So we are just going to eliminate that pawn and then protect this knight. We can do that with knight d7, or we could do that with bishop e7. It feels like bishop e7 makes the most sense because we also stop the pin. If we do the knight to d7, the pin is still there. And probably they will take or they will go back. But even if they go back, at least the piece is out of my position. Also, actually, I realized that this bishop e7 move was, of course, superior to knight e7, or at least I think so, because it doesn't just unpin, we also suddenly have an attack on that knight. Which causes them to take. And now this is a very interesting moment, because I am pretty sure that during the analysis the engine will say that this is a move that we can play, the move pawn takes f6 here. All right, but bishop takes f6 is of course a little bit more logical, but I'm pretty sure that pawn takes f6 probably also works, because we open up a file for the rook. But in general, I am a big fan of playing safe, playing boring, so we will play this. I really hope he makes a mistake here, because I have been looking at this move, queen a5 check, and it looked to me like maybe there was something that we could do with that check, but because the bishop was also there, but I don't think there was ever any possibility. Okay, so bishop back to e3. All right. So following opening principles, we should probably castle here, but I'm also looking at the move c5. I think c5 is interesting. If he pushes, but if he pushes, we don't really achieve much. Well, if he pushes, we can take, and then we can take there on b2. And if he doesn't do anything, we can just take and we would be winning a pawn. So he probably has to protect with the knight, and then I can get my knight to c6. So I think c5 is a good move. I just need to be sure if it's safe, because he also has a check. But we have bishop d7. So I think c5 is an interesting move, because you can see that many of my pieces, at least 2 of my pieces, are pointing in the same direction. And that usually means that you have to go for a plan there. So yeah, I think c5 is probably a move here. If you want to be safe, I think you can castle first as well. It won't make a huge difference, but I'll just play this c5 push. All right. And I think we can play knight c6 to add an extra piece to the equation. We just have to be a bit careful about pushing, because then we take, then they take, then we have a knight that's under attack. So I'm just going to take there in the center. See what happens. All right. And I think knight c6 is still an interesting move. Getting the knight into the game. And also attacking that bishop. Also blocking the check diagonal. That's important. All right, they are going to take. And I think we just take this with the queen. And we have a queen on a nice diagonal. Our knight is controlling some of those central squares. And his king is also still in the center. So this is starting to look like an interesting position. So what I think I will do is I will castle probably. Yeah, let's start with castling. And it still takes him 2 moves to castle. So we will see if there is something on the next move that we can try. But so far I like this position. I think we have had a good game so far. But everything is still pretty much equal. The biggest thing that I am thinking about here is the difference in pawn islands. Meaning he has 3 pawns on the king side, we have 4. And he has 3 pawns on the queen side and we have 2. But the fact that we have more pawns on the king side is not really a benefit, because we don't really want to start pushing king side pawns. Those are dangerous. So probably there will be some battle with these 3 pawns versus these 2. Usually that should mean he will have 1 pawn left after some exchanges, and that's sometimes a pawn that we can either try to win or maybe a pawn that he can try to promote. So we will need to be careful there. All right. So what are good plans for black? And then if he castles, play the bishop. Yeah, I'll do this. I think knight a5 probably also makes sense, but I like b6 immediately as well, because in the end, like, my knight will be on the edge of the board. I'm not sure what I'm doing over there, so this makes sense. Plus, I think this move might still be interesting in the future. But we need to get the bishop to the diagonal. And this is what I just meant in the beginning. Like, I just tried to follow normal opening principles. I developed a little bit, we traded. I think I have more control over the center than he does. And I'm just looking to simply develop my pieces, play a simple game. We have an open file. I will try to fight for the open file. He is also going to try to fight for the open file. That is fine. And just have a simple game, really. Okay, there is some pressure with the bishop and maybe with the queen. So I think there might be something at some point, but it's probably better to right now focus on this open file. All right, Mighty Wizard finally decided to make a move, and he took the rook. The funny thing is, I think if I wasn't recording and talking, I'm pretty sure I would have been at 9 minutes, because this game has been extremely simple so far. But Mighty Wizard is just using his time. Every single move. But okay. Okay, so he wants to go for a rookless game. All right. Let's do it. Let's play an endgame, I guess. He cannot take with the queen, or he drops a pawn. He does take with the queen. That's suspicious. That's suspicious. Because I think we can just take the pawn. He doesn't have a check. He might be infiltrating and attacking the bishop. And also threatening back rank mate. Let's see, because if we can take the pawn, that is the move that wins the game. Queen here. So we have the problem of the bishop, and we have the problem of the e8 square being a checkmate. I don't have a checkmate, because he always has bishop f1. So that means I have to go back. So yeah, I think we would actually be in trouble if I take that free pawn. So what I will do instead, I think, is offer him a trade of queens. And let's see if he takes it. Okay, he doesn't, so he really wants to play an endgame, which I don't think was the right choice for him. This looks like a good move. Knight to d4. It's the fork that we have been talking about, plus we open up the bishop. Alright, so he just takes, finally, like, his moves take so incredibly long. I could have even pre-moved him, basically, but alright. So back rank problems, we both have those. That's something that we need to solve. The funny thing is I can play this and solve it. For him, it's like more difficult. Okay. Okay. So this pawn is potentially a target. I think I'll just first play this. Just fix the back rank problems, give ourselves a dark escaping square. Not a light one, a dark escaping square. And he cannot do the same. He cannot push this. And this is not really what you want to play. He could try to play b4. But he doesn't. He tries to play the boring and the safe moves. Okay. So I think a5 is good. Because we don't really want to run into b4. Grabs a little bit more space. And maybe I could play a4 at some point and try to break apart the pawns after a move like bishop c6, a4, take, take, something like that, just to break up the pawn structure. And we might just be winning on the clock, because I feel like Mighty Wizard is so incredibly slow that anything can happen. Okay, that's a big decision. He moves the queen all the way over here, where it actually doesn't do anything, I think. Nope, all squares are covered, nothing to worry about. Okay. What a great move would be like this, 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 and then double pressure on the bishop. But let's start with this move. Queen b2 could also be interesting. But I need to make sure we don't drop any material. Okay, what is this doing? There are no checks. And everything is pretty much protected. Alright. I think I'll just play the strange king g7 basically as a bit of a waiting move. Also just trying to not have any weaknesses. Okay, so this doesn't really matter because it's protected. We just have to move the bishop. Right. And my eventual plan is to try this, to try to pin and then play bishop d3, and that could win the game. Or this maybe. So let's think. I think this might be a winning position now. This move pins the bishop. If he takes the pawn, we just play bishop d3 and that's game over. And it's important to play this one because I want to stay on this diagonal to stop the checks. And we also attack a pawn. Okay, so he sees this. Time is very low. I could not take the pawn because of a check and then I dropped the bishop. Right now I can take the pawn. He still cannot take the pawn, otherwise bishop d3 is game over. Is he just going to flag? It's very likely. Okay. What a game. Look, Mighty Wizard just ended up flagging here. And probably still an equal endgame. What I wanted to say is that queen takes b6, runs into bishop d3, and then they are in trouble. And basically he had to find a move which also saves his pawn. If he plays queen a3, there is also bishop d3 winning the game. But I think if he played something like a3, probably the game just continues there. And I mean, black is always a little bit better, but probably it's all okay anyways.